everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes, guy with hats, guy with fancy pieces of paper, guy with not enough time on his hands. I hope you all are doing well. It's been a long couple of days, but I'm in good spirits. Kind of tired. I've been randomly falling asleep a lot this week. Randomly fell asleep earlier just sitting on the couch. Just fell asleep. I guess what that's telling me is that I need to try to sleep more at night. Because, you know, how easy that is. India! Hey, KP. It is indeed India! And you might note that I have the text down here a little bit smaller than I normally do. That's because there are some pretty long words tonight, and I didn't want the words to end up wrapping into 2 layers of text. But when you've got to type out Maha Mega Vahana, it's a little bit of a big word. So, yeah. So the show is Adventures in History, where we talk about history and make fun out of history and sometimes make fun of history. And we have some times of laughter and some times of fellowship. And depending on how many people are in the chat that appreciate my jokes, there might be some time of groaning. I had a Subcontinental breakfast this morning at my hotel. I was having a really hard time of coming up with a title for tonight. Sometimes the titles are just like little bolts of genius inspiration, and it's really easy to come up with. And other times I can just sort of stew over these things, and it might take me all the way up until just moments before the stream starts. I bug Mac and KP a lot. We've got a group chat. I bug them all the time. And they've come up with some pretty good ones themselves. And sometimes they help me refine things. But yeah, a survey of late classical Indian kingdoms doesn't really offer too terribly much to make puns out of. So I thought we would just go with the entire subcontinent. Subcontinent, of course, being India, and go with Subcontinental breakfast. And I actually have a neat little twist on that as we go through the discussion tonight. We'll talk a little bit about what some of these people might have had for breakfast based on their particular belief sets. So I tried to go with the theme, right? You play into the pun, right? Don't run away from the pun. Just embrace it. Yeah. So I did want to take a moment before we sort of get kicked off to point out this is episode number 40 of Adventures in History, which is kind of crazy. 40 episodes. It seems like just a couple of days ago we were doing episode 20. And it's crazy. I don't know what I really thought about. I don't know what I'm even trying to say right now. I guess that what I'm trying to say is, like back when I first started this, I really didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't know if it was going to catch on or if this is something that I would do for, you know, a few weeks and then it just sort of burn out because it wasn't getting anywhere and I was bored with it. Which is how some of my ideas work. I come up with some pretty harebrained schemes sometimes that look really great on the outset. And then once I get into the middle of them, I realize, oh, yeah, that's not what I thought it was going to be. But the show here is not what I thought it was going to be either, but in a good way. So thanks to all of you for hanging around. Just got my notification that you were streaming about a minute ago. Oh, Twitch. That's weird. Hey, Moose. Population density. Ooh. What are we looking at here? Global population density. That's crazy. Yeah, look at India. Wow. That's kind of crazy. I hope everybody's looking at this. Maps! Absolutely. I love maps. You can, there's so much data just by looking at this. Like, you can tell where cities are, and like, I can look at some of these spikes and go, I know what that one is. Man, looking at you, Moscow. Looking at you. Stop giving him shinies. Look over here. Look over here. Oh, man. I spent... Oh, man. I spent a pretty good amount of time Tuesday night looking at that map that Techman shared. For those of you that weren't in the stream on Tuesday, we were discussing Native American mythology, and one of our stream friends, Techman, shared a map of Native American tribal territory, but like just initially looking at it, I was like, oh man, that's crazy. And if it were just the Native American tribal territories, it would already be a crazy great map. But after messing around with it, I also realized that you could also click a couple of toggles and it would show you language. So you could filter by tribes for North America, or you can filter by linguistic groups in North America. And that's crazy neat. And that, of course, added more time to the amount of time I was clicking around like that. Like a magpie on cocaine. I don't think I'm a magpie on cocaine. I just like maps. I think they're neat. And you can learn a lot from them. So I'm gonna have to just bookmark this guy and come back to it. KP's casting aspersions. Hey, look, Nile River. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Sub-Saharan Africa, we can see where you are. Nothing. Hey. Anyway, so I guess the little spiel at the beginning was mostly to say thank you all for hanging out. You all have really made Adventures in History turn into a thing that is bigger and better than I ever thought it would be. I honestly and very literally and seriously would not be doing this without you all. It has been a great aid in a pretty dark time. So, but things are looking up, right? We have new opportunities. We have new days ahead of us. We have new chances. So let's make the most out of them, right? Yeah, and come hang out on the Discord. We've been sharing Bernie Sanders memes all afternoon. Oh man, that Bernie meme from him at the inauguration, like with his big mittens and his big coat, and to give credit where credit is due, the first time I saw that picture, I saw a meme of it and shared it on our group chat with KP and Mac. And KP was like, this is just infinitely memeable. And totally called the fact that this was going to be a thing. On the Discord, I shared a website that someone's already made to put Bernie in any address that you want. we put Bernie in. We put Bernie in our front yard, and Asa put Bernie in the Grand Canyon. It's so great. My wife said that there are times that she really appreciates the internet, and this was one of them. So, oh, Bernie, thanks, Bernie. You have brightened our days. Okay, so let's kind of get on topic, and we can talk a little bit about what we're actually here to talk about, and that is India. And this is another one of those areas of history that don't really get a lot of attention. Hey, Luna in Japan, welcome. How are you? Hey, Hunk, what's up? Hunk raises his hand. I see where this is going. Just soak? Oh, speak. The P. I'm doing. Finally caught one of your streams. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I've lurked a few times in Darkness's stream. Last time I was in there, you all were chatting about playing. Well, Darkness was playing Breath of the Wild. So pretty cool stuff. What's on my shirt? This is it's a mouse guard shirt. It's the Black Axe t-shirt. So 95% complete. Oh my gosh. Let me see if I can get a better shot of it. So if you like David Peterson, this is from the third volume of Mouse Guard called the Black Axe, which is this thing right here. This is King Luthabon, and this is Kalanal, one of the main characters, and some supporting characters, M of Appleloft. It's a really good story. So if you are interested in cool shirts, I don't know if he has too many sizes of this one left. I think he might have some really extra large sizes. But there is going to be a new Mouse Guard t-shirt coming out. Are we there? Oh, wow. We just made it. History of Middle-earth stream completed. So, here's the thing. I really thought that would take longer. I really did. Also, hey Moose. Hello! My understanding is that the people in India prefer being called Native Americans. Moose. Yes, it is the Black Axe. Hey, Fontaine. Okay, so I'm a giant J.R.R. Tolkien fan. And I let this be known to the population of the stream. And people immediately started asking me to do History of Middle-earth streams. Made chicken tikka masala. That sounds awesome, Vern. Yeah. So I told everybody that I would do a History of Middle-earth stream when we crossed 300 followers for the channel. And then I would do another History of Middle-earth stream at every 100 followers past that, right? So at 300 and then at 400 and 500, so on and so forth. So when we hit 300 followers, we did our first one, but then I started just sort of doing the math and figured out that it took me about 7 months to get to 300 followers. And that was with a pretty big boost because of some of the stuff that I did at the beginning of the stream. I got a lot of followers just from students in my class because when COVID happened, I was actually using Twitch to teach my college classes for a while. So I figured, man, it's probably going to take, months and months and months and months and months to get to 400. So I made a decision that I would build a community goal. And I would still do one when we got to 400, but I would do another stream once the community donated 150,000 points, which only took about 2 months. Not even 2 months, because I posted that. Man, I can't even remember when I posted. It's been about 40 something days. So about a month and a week or so. And people have just been just throwing the points at it like mad. You wish your professors would use Twitch. The platform you use is awful. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun. I had some students that already used it. I was already familiar with it. I had already thought about this idea of doing a podcast, so I already had some audio equipment and some software to run all that stuff. What kind of 30-year-old white guy in America are you if you don't have a podcast? So I decided to just roll the podcast on into an actual stream. So there we go. And here we are. Last week there was a kitty head. Today there's a gorilla head. Okay, now we've got to look at the gorilla head. I have a sense that I could see that. I think it looks a little bit like Abe Sapien. But I'm a big fan of Mignola. Zoom. Like a pensive Abe Sapien. And this would be his gills. Perhaps. Extra Gundam streams sped it up. Yes, indeed. What do we got Instagram here? We have a Vern Williams on Instagram. Everybody go follow Vern on Instagram. Oh, it's tikka masala. Vern, that looks tasty. And I am jealous. Though I did have some really good leftover Chinese food, so I can't complain too terribly much. So here's the thing, though, and this has been another kind of crazy surprise. Since that point where we had 300 followers, I have had some really massive raids. Cryomera brought a whole bunch of people in, and I was up to 160 people in the room at one point. Pink Hypoxy has raided me a couple of times and brought 60 and 80 people with her. And the follows have started racking up. And I don't know if this is you all using the power of group thought to bring people in my direction and get them to follow me because you want more History of Middle Earth. But we're already up to 360 followers in the channel. So we are already more than halfway to having another History of Middle Earth stream in the sort of natural sense. So, but we've got the 150,000. So we are there. I'll work on one of those. And as soon as I get everything worked up, we'll have ourselves another one. It won't be this weekend. I've got a lot of work to do for my sociology master's class that I need to work on. A lot of work. So this weekend I'm going to try to basically get done with about 2 weeks worth of stuff so that I can maybe have some free time next weekend, which I might be spending with you all now, doing a History of Middle Earth stream, which will be okay. I'm not going to complain about that. We also don't have a viewer request stream next week. We'll see. I'll let everybody know. If you hang out on the Discord, as soon as I get firm date for when that's going to happen, I'll let everybody know. So we have gone almost 20 minutes into the stream. Oh, no, we've gone 25 minutes into the stream, and I haven't said a darn thing about India. So let's actually talk about India now. Boom! And get on topic. Stay on topic. There's a good reference for you. I don't know if anybody got that one or not. If you got that one, let me know. Okay, so India. Okay, here's Hunk trying to throw me off topic again. You gave out an India fact. You did. You said that there was a gorilla face in there. So we've talked about it a little bit. We talked about tikka masala. That was a Death Star Run reference. Thank you, Kyle. Much appreciated. Giant nerd. Okay. Now, I'm a giant nerd. I wasn't calling you a giant nerd. If you would like to call yourself a giant nerd, you're welcome to. I am a gigantic nerd. Anyway, so in the last real big stream that we had about India, we were talking about this empire called the Maurya. And the Maurya Empire was really, really powerful from around the very late 300s BC. So what we're talking about is like the 310s and 320s or so. Really hit its height in the mid to late 200s BC, and then slowly but surely started fading away by the beginning of the 100s BC, which is where we'll be picking up tonight. You're also a giant nerd. You spent all of last semester studying Indian philosophy. Luna, you are going to be so excited because we're going to talk about Buddhism and Hinduism and Jainism tonight. And it's going to be good. And you could contribute and make Indian-based puns or horrible bad jokes that are not bad in subject matter, just bad like, oh. So the Maurya Empire is going to go away from the inside, and we'll actually talk about the very, very end of it tonight, right here at the beginning. But last week, we talked about these Greek people that were sort of left over from the Alexander the Great junk. Hey, Spartacus, aka Joey. How's it going, man? Welcome, welcome. We talked about these Greco-Bactrians and then these Indo-Greeks and Scythians and Parthians who had moved down into this region right here of India. But what about all this other part? This other giant chunk of the subcontinent? What's going on over there? Well, that's the topic for tonight. So the Maurya Empire is about to die. Quite literally. Well, not the empire is going to die, but the leader of the empire is going to die at the hands of a guy. At the hands of a guy named Pushyamitra Shunga. And be aware, we're going to be talking about a lot of people in India and a lot of groups of people in India tonight, and their language doesn't sound like English, but that's okay. I have done as much diligence as I think that I can have done without speaking to a native person from India. I have looked up a lot of stuff like phonetic spellings of these things. I believe that I am pronouncing them as close to accurate as possible, but that doesn't mean that I am, which is why I like to type them out so that you can actually look at them. Did he push him? In a way, he pushed him into a grave, kind of. Okay, so Pushyamitra Shunga is one of the generals of the Maurya dynasty, the Maurya Empire. And around 185 BC, Pushyamitra decides that it's time for the Maurya to just go away, right? And what ends up happening is that Pushyamitra, using his access to the last of the Maurya emperors, kills him. And This is going to splinter what little bit of what was left of the Maurya Empire, which was not too terribly much. Sort of this like midway line right about here and over, kind of in this area. But basically all of this stuff is going to get released, but Pushyamitra Shunga is going to claim that he is the new emperor and try to take over as much of the territory as he can. And he ends up getting a pretty good bit of what we call the Ganges River Basin. So if we zoom into India, this big guy right here is the Ganges. So this big river basin is the Ganges River Basin. And this region right over here is going to sort of be the heartland of what becomes known as the Shunga dynasty. And these guys last from about 185 BC to about 75 BC. Pushyamitra is going to do a lot of the good stuff, right? He's going to set himself up as an emperor. He starts collecting taxes, and he starts going through all of the religious ceremonies. Is this where Led Zeppelin breaks off from India to form the nation of Kashmir? That's a little bit later, and on the other side of India. So when they would be moving through Kashmir, Kashmir is over here, up in these mountains, right along the... Ooh, I can actually just throw up the borders and I can show you where this stuff is. Boom, check that out. Power of Google. So this red outlined area is Kashmir. And that area was a group of people, and there were people there. But the population of Kashmir now is substantially different than the population of Kashmir at this time in the BC era. Kashmir now is mostly Muslim in religion, and of course that doesn't move in to that particular region until about the 800s AD. So the Kashmir that Zeppelin would have known, well, first off, you can't speak of that land, right? I love that song, by the way. I'm a gigantic Led Zeppelin fan. But yeah, so Kashmir's over here. We're talking about over here. I don't know exactly where I was going with that. I was trying to make a whole bunch of lyric puns off of the song Kashmir. But I guess humor there is a world that's seldom seen. So let's move along. Pushyamitra Shunga, as a guy that killed the emperor, has to legitimize himself and his dynasty as the new legitimate emperor. And to do that, he uses this really interesting ritual called the Ashvamedha. Ashvamedha. So here's what you do. When you say that you're the king of this area, you get this horse. And it's a particular horse that you sort of sanctify and set aside, and you do some sort of like ritually things over the horse. And then you turn the horse loose with a contingent of people who are sort of just supposed to make sure that they keep up with the horse. And you turn this horse loose in your borders, right? And for 1 year, the horse sort of wanders around in your borders. And people know what the horse is, because when you see the horse, you also see the little group of people that are basically like your royal horse sitters. And if the horse survives the year without someone trying to kill the horse, that means that you are officially the ruler of that territory. And the horse sitters bring the horse back to your capital city, and then you kill it in a sacrifice. So it's an interesting ritual. I like sharing stuff like that with you. But Pushyamitra Shunga does the Ashvamedha ritual. No one messes with his horse. So he is a good old-fashioned king at that point. But here's the thing. There are a lot of discussions in the both in the ancient sources that talk about this guy and the modern interpretations of those sources that talk about this guy, about how exactly he handled his kingdom. And the biggest issue is whether or not he liked Buddhism. So he was a Brahmin. Brahmins are the highest level of castes inside of Hinduism. And it seems that, well, let me just tell you what the sources say. So some sources say he was a good king. He treated his people fairly. He respected the fact that he was a Hindu and his family was a Hindu. And that was sort of it. Other sources, especially sources that come from Buddhists, say, oh no, this guy's a giant jerk. And not only did he persecute Buddhists, he burned down their temples, and he killed a whole bunch of their priests. And the Buddhist sources seem to claim that this guy was an outright suppressor of Buddhism. Now, what's the real answer? The real answer we probably won't ever know. And as usual, it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? He probably didn't give a lot of money to Buddhists, which was a pretty common thing under the Maurya Empire. Remember, after the Emperor Ashoka, I don't know if you all were here for the Indian discussion, but one of the big Maurya emperors, Ashoka, was a super huge patron of Buddhism. Converted to Buddhism and just donated millions and millions of dollars to Buddhist temples and built stuff, and was a big missionary, sent out even his sons to do missionary work for Buddhism. So it could be that the Buddhists were just angry that Pushyamitra Shunga was not continuing this Mauryan habit of patronizing Buddhism. And so they say that he persecuted them. It could also be that some of these people that were at these big Buddhist temples just happened to be in pockets of resistance to the Shunga dynasty that were really mad that he had killed the emperor, the Maurya emperor, and they tried to make him look bad. And they might have even done some resistance against his reign, which means that he might have gone in and tried to fight them. So there are a lot of potential ways to describe how Pushyamitra ruled. We really probably won't ever know, but we can get back to the subcontinental breakfast thing here. So if we're having subcontinental breakfast in Pushyamitra Shunga's dynasty, we are not having cow milk or cow cheese because he's a good Brahmin. So if you want milk in your cereal in Pushyamitra Shunga's world, you should probably just stick with the goat milk. Pushyashuna what? You got to stop making up words. Hey, Cave. What's up, man? Everybody go follow Cave. Luna, do you actually stream too? Or do you just hang out in Darkness's channel? I don't actually know. Go follow Luna in Japan anyway. Just cuz. Because Luna's cool. So just go do it. Just cuz. Pushyamitra Shunga. Alright, so there's the thing though. The Shunga dynasty is not invincible, and it is going to have some conflicts with some of the people around them, especially these Greco-Bactrians, the people that we talked about last week, and the Indo-Greeks. Though it seems that the Shunga were pretty good at holding on to their territory over here. So even though they clearly fought some battles along the borders here between the Greco-Bactrian and Indo-Greek kingdoms, the Shunga dynasty seemed to be pretty well in control of this region for the 120 or so years that they were in power. Doing all right, eating pizza. Nothing wrong with pizza. Man, I love pizza. Ugh, love pizza so much. Anyway, so they're also going to have some conflicts with other native Indian people, especially these people right in here called the Kalinga, who we'll talk about in a moment, and some people right in here called the Satavahana, which we'll also talk about in a moment. But one of the things about the Shunga dynasty is that even though they were sort of usurpers, they continued a lot of cultural advances. And one of the things that happens a lot during this entire period in India, this sort of 200 BC to 1 BC period of time, is that Indian artwork and literature really gets a big advance. And the Shunga are not outliers in that. They do some really beautiful artwork. Well, apparently Pushya What's-His-Name thought that there was a lot wrong with pizza. You can make pizza with goat cheese. It's totally possible. Hey, Meyer Barzini, welcome. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Post-COVID, you want to go to Italy, partly because I believe it will have a lot of pizza. They do, and it's good. But the best pizza that I've ever had in my life is at a place in Hoover, Alabama, which is just south of Birmingham. It's called Salvatore's, which is a little bit closer and probably a little bit easier to get to than Italy. Going to be away from the keyboard, casting you into the... Ooh! Let's move to the living room. Okay, so let's look at some pictures of art. I try to share art as frequently as I can, and some of the really cool things that they did were these really neat decorations for temples. But Italy also has Italian women. They do, and it won't require a COVID travel waiver. It won't. Man, I want to go to Salvatore's. Okay, so this particular thing that we're looking at right now is the external railing to a temple at a place called Barhut. It's Barhut, and we'll look at where this is located in just a second. But all of these are like full-size logs that have been carved like into this super intricate detail work. This is really pretty stuff. And I have a railing. Must not be from Star Wars Universe. So this is like the end post here. I felt like to continue the theme of the channel for the last 20 or so episodes, I really needed to throw something with an elephant in there. But also, this has got some pretty neat Brahmini writing in it, which would have been the native writing of the Shunga people. So this is just really, really beautiful stuff. And it's just fascinating levels of skill here. So let's look at the map of the Shunga. All right, so here we go. Shunga Empire, again, we're mostly over here. They had captured the capital of the Maurya Empire, Pataliputra. You can see here that they're fighting up in this region with some of the Indo-Greeks. You can see Barhut, which is here, the location of all of that really cool artwork. There are a lot of other examples of that artwork, by the way, and the sort of architecture and stuff that they did. They were really big on these gateways and these big rails that went around temples and stuff. You can Google Shunga Dynasty and you can find all sorts of really cool stuff. So there's that. Anyway, they don't live forever. That's the thing. So what ends up happening is that the external forces are going to start getting at them. But again, they're big on patronizing the arts. There's going to be a big growth in texts that are written in their native language. They do a lot for Hindu temples in the area. You can start seeing a little bit of influence from some of the outside regions, especially Persia. Persian art during this period of time is going to be sort of the vogue thing in northern India. And part of this is because of the extensive connections that they had at this point between the Iranian plateau and northern India. But You're also going to see a growth in education, more people getting educated and learning how to read. But the kings end up getting weaker. And what's going to end up happening in 75 BC is that the last of the Shunga kings is going to get killed, and they're going to be replaced by a series of smaller dynasties. The largest one that claims to be the successor of the Shunga is the Kanva dynasty. And this particular family only stays in power for about 35 years, until about 30 BC. And they don't control nearly as much territory. So here you see like the sort of the largest extent of the Shunga Empire in 185 when Pushyamitra would have broken away. And here you see the Kanva. So they had lost a lot of territory up in the north, and even then down here to the south, especially to the Kalinga and the Satavahana. So you can't stay in power forever, right? That's what happens, alas. So who else? And I've arranged this. I'm getting visited by the puppy. You all want to see the puppy? Come on, Kaylee. Come here. Come here. Come see me. No. What do you want? What do you want? Well, come here. No, don't go under the table. Of course you want to see the puppy. Come over here. Come over here. Come over here. All right, now come up here. Come and see me. There we go. There's the Kaylee. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Hello, puppy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just trying to get my attention? Woof. I don't know what you want. What do you want? Moo. Well, go see Brittany. She'll get it for you. What do you want, silly head? I'm trying to do something. You want to come up here again? Well, go see Brittany. Go see Brittany. Go see Brittany. I have no idea what the dog wants. I just ate a roach and I want to give you face kisses. Probably. Who knows? It's the puppy. One cannot deny the puppy. I love how Kelly comes out of nowhere and just like, of course we want to see the puppy. Duh. What? I don't know what you want. Do you want to go outside? It's raining. Of course she waits until it starts raining to want to go outside. Oh, goodness gracious. Anyway, moving along. It wasn't out of nowhere. You saw my contribution to the Middle Earth history. I did, ? I saw a whole bunch of people at the same time donate stuff. Did I? I did see you. There you are. Boom. Okay. Jumps back into the bushes. I confess that I did not see every single donation. It's snowing. Where are you, Fontaine? If you don't mind saying. If you don't want to say, you don't have to. You don't. It's perfectly fine. You could give a region if you'd prefer. I wouldn't mind some snow in Vermont. Oh, you missed all the Bernie talk. Oh, Bernie. I don't know. You might have been hearing the Bernie talk. Hey, Daria. Welcome. Hello. Okay. So, again, we're going to sort of take this in a north to south approach. So, moving around, we'll come over here to this big region. Now, we need to talk a little bit about geography, which I know everybody's super excited about. Like, yay, geography. But if you look at the map here, you can see that there is this big flippin' chunk of a plateau right here. And this plateau is... ooh, my voice cracked. It's called the Decca. Deccan Plateau. You like Earth? Hey, Big Tuna Neil, welcome. Cave, I owe you a text. Okay. Earth is overrated. Hey, Earth is the only place that we have that we know that there's air and that we can survive, so that's pretty high up the list. Anyway, this Deccan Plateau had for a very long period of time in Indian history been sort of hard to get into. There are limited sources of water. The rugged terrain itself is sometimes a bit of a trial. If we zoom in here, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You see these really big shifts in elevation. You see these sort of impenetrable chunks of land mass. So the Deccan Plateau had been habitated all the way back to the period of time where humans first moved into India. And it had been one of the things that the early Mauryan leaders had tried to break into. Bindusara probably was the Maurya emperor that broke down in there. Definitely Ashoka. But that area had never really had what we might consider an organized native governance that was to that level of kingdom or empire until now. And in this area, we're going to see a group of people called the Satavahana. Empire. Satavahana Empire. And their territory looks like this. Boom. Satavahana. Again, so we're sort of right here on this Decca territory. We see the Kalinga over here. We'll talk about them next. So the Shunga would have been over here. And this area would have been in that area where we were talking about the Indo-Greeks and the Greco-Bactrians, Satavahana. And if you guess, we'll talk about these people down here towards the end of class. I just said class, and I didn't mean class because I don't really think of this as a class. But, you know, it's a force of habit. When I teach, I refer to class. So, what's up with the Satavahana Empire? Well, here's the thing. It's kind of hard to tell when they came from. We know that they were a power somewhere around the 200s BC, but some people say they existed a lot longer than that. Some people say they did not exist even in the 200s BC. They didn't really show up until the 100s BC. So when they first got moving and organized is a little bit difficult to tell. Part of that problem is that we don't have a lot of good sources from this region. Darn the man. I'm turning you all into more bricks in the wall. Hey teacher, leave those Twitch kids alone. So some people say that they're founded like in the 200s. Some people say that they're founded in the 100s. I tend to think that the 100s BC is probably more accurate. We have some documents from inside that seem to support that idea. Some people say that as soon as the Maurya Empire collapsed, the Satavahana just immediately kind of like just picked up where they left off. I don't know if I agree with that or not. Maybe some versions of it did, but they did not control that entire area almost certainly. Anyway, that's enough of my hemming and hawing around. Somewhere in the 1st century BC or 2nd century BC, you see these people show up. And they last until the 200s AD, so we're not going to collapse them tonight. We'll collapse them in a couple of phases. Where did they come from? Well, that's another question. Some people say that they came from this central part of the Decca Plateau right in here. Some people don't agree with that, and they say, oh, no. They came from over here on the coastline. Some of these big cities on the coastline, and then they penetrated inland using their numerical and military superiority. Okay. Some people say, oh, no. They started on this side. They started over here in the east, and then they spread out of the mountains and conquered all of the area from there. Again, it's hard to tell. If I had to guess, I would say that the Western theory is probably the most accurate. Some of the oldest inscriptions that we know for certain are actually from Satavahana leaders, are over here in the western part of the Decca, not too far from the coastline. So that's kind of my take on it. I seriously doubt that there are too many people in the chat right now that are super interested in getting into a finer detailed point of the religious, not the religious, but the foundation of the Satavahana Empire. Anyway, so their leader, the first guy that we can claim to be a ruler of the Satavahana is a guy named Samuka. He's the first king. We know that he's the first king because everybody says that he's the first king. We don't really know when he ruled, and this is again based on when they actually got started. But we know that somewhere around the 70s BC, that the Satavahana start growing under a couple of rulers named Satakarni. And this is Satakarni first and Satakarni the second. And that's when they're going to start expanding. They're going to take over some territory from the Shunga. They're going to fight against the Kalinga. They're going to really start founding a lot of cities, especially cities along the coast. And the reason that they're going to be focusing on these coastal areas is because of trade. And by the 70s and 50s BC, one of their biggest trading partners is actually Rome. They're going to start trading a lot in the Red Sea coast. So you're going to see stuff from as far away. Ooh, I need to zoom out a little bit. I can see that, but you can't. All the way from this western coastline of India up into the Red Sea, into Egypt, and into the Levant region over here in the Persian Gulf. So these guys are kind of moving on up to the Europe side. But what about their religion? So here's the thing. The leadership of the Satavahana are also Brahmins. So they are sort of native Hindu people, but they are pretty tolerant of Buddhism. And Buddhism is actually going to spread a lot into the Deccan Plateau during this period of time. And it's pretty clear that the leaders of the Satavahana dynasty picked up a little bit of that old let's build cool stuff for Buddhist monasteries, and they renovated some stuff that had fallen into a little bit of disrepair, and they made again some really cool stuff. So let's look at an image of a stupa, which is a Buddhist building. Here, this is at a place called Sanchi, and this is one of the sort of religious centers that the Satavahana restored. So check out all of this really awesome carving. So this is made out of stone, and all of this is carved in relief. This is just absolutely amazing levels of artwork. I wonder if the resolution will hold up there. It won't. But this is just absolutely beautiful stuff. And this gateway and the arches that go in it and the fences that go around the stupa are the things that the Satavahana patronized. God, I mean, this is just so intricate and it's just absolutely beautiful. I really love this period of India for just the level of skill that you start seeing in the artworks. Just amazing amounts of technical skill to get all this stuff done. Man, that's cool. This is the sort of stuff that I would want to go see if I got to go visit India. So it's just really awesome stuff. So if we're going to have breakfast and continue with our subcontinental breakfast theme in Satavahana territory, you have a lot more options. For vegetarians, with the induction of Buddhism, you're probably going to see a lot more vegetarian options for your breakfast. So nuts and grains and cereals, maybe a granola bar might be in order. Did you go outside and get wet? Oh, yes, you got outside and got soaking wet. The puppy is back, and I smelled her. She smells of wet dog. She always wants to go out as soon as it starts raining. Like, I need to go outside now. And like, it's raining. I need to go outside. Hey, Color by Emmy. Welcome, welcome. I did not see that you were there. Wet dog was considered sacred in India. I'm not aware of that. I did not know that. But okay. Okay. Let's talk about the Kalinga. And we will get... you're a scientist, trust you. Sounds good enough for me. If you could post that on Facebook and then share it with me, I would know at that point it is inalienable truth. And now you have to glue some skin together. All right, Cave, take it easy. You're going to miss the biggest word of them all, though. So let's talk about the Kalinga. So when you see Kalinga, there's a little bit of an issue because sometimes the word Kalinga is used to describe a region of India. Most notably, this region demarked here in green. So sort of this coastal area. And I apologize for the lack of good maps tonight. As this is not necessarily a very widely studied historical period of time in the West, finding good sources and maps for this stuff is a bit tough. But essentially, the Kalinga lived over here in what Moose was identifying earlier as the gorilla face. No, that's Bazinga. And the Kalinga were a group of people as well, and they had fought very violently against the Maurya, and the conquering of the Kalinga in the Kalinga War was what triggered Ashoka to becoming Buddhist because it was so violent and horrible. But when the Maurya dynasty fell, the Kalinga fell under the domination of the Mahameghavahana dynasty, which is spelled Mahameghavahana. Like that. And no, this has nothing to do with what Goku yells when he shoots fire out of his hands. So, Mahameghavahana dynasty. They're going to take over in the very late 200 or the very late 2nd century or the very early 1st century BC, and they're going to rule the Kalinga region for about the next 400 or so years. Mahameghavahana. What a wonderful phrase. Thank you, KP, for the full showdown of exactly how Goku would have said that. That would have taken at least 1 or 2 episodes in the old school Dragon Ball Z as it was released in America. Just him saying the name. I don't know if any of you all watched Dragon Ball Z when it first came out in the United States, but it was horrible for stretching out episodes because they couldn't get license from Japan fast enough. So they added a whole bunch of voiceover and they took like 1 episode and made 2 of them out of it. Yeah, that show was so much delay. Exactly. Not Kai. No, Kai was actually the way that it was supposed to go. And DBZ Abridged is probably the best version of it. I'm a Chaozu. Oh, I love DBZ Abridged. Anyway, that's a whole other story. So the Mahameghavahana dynasty is called such because the first ruler was a guy named Mahameghavahana. And he took over again in the late second, early first century BC. And he and his subsequent dynastic followers are going to expand the control of the Kalinga. There is a region right around in here it's really good for farming. It's got a lot of nice access to trade routes and things like that. Hey, Vegeta. I'm sorry. I'm quoting DBZ Abridged, which is a fan show that is absolutely hilarious. Anyway, the region right around here is called Kosala, and the Kalinga are going to expand up under the Mahameghavahana dynasty to take over that area, and they're going to put together a pretty big chunk of territory, and a lot of this is at the expense of the Shunga, and especially at the expense of the Satavahana dynasty. So the Kalinga are going to be pretty powerful for quite some time. Your favorite is Ghost Nappa? Yeah. Their capital is a place called Dantapura, and even though Mahameghavahana has a really cool name, and I like saying Mahameghavahana, he's not actually the most powerful of the kings of the Kalinga. That guy's name is Kharavela. And if you do any sort of search of Kharavela, this guy gets a lot of prestige that I don't think is actually due his name. Some of the maps that I saw when looking for Kalinga maps that show his territory basically gave him control of the entire central part of India, which is just, it's just not accurate. He ruled a big chunk of territory, probably up into this area pretty substantially, to the borders of the Decca, maybe into this eastern part of the Decca. Had some territory up here in, again, Kosala, that was in the Gangetic Plain. But if you do a lot of research on this guy, which I'm sure that everybody's so excited about going and running out and doing research on Kharavela, he gets a lot of credit for stuff that I don't think is actually provable. He is, again, though, the most powerful of the Kalingas. He rules in the late 100s BC. Hey, Vegeta. What, Honk? You raise his hand. I am very thirsty for some reason. Must have been all the dumplings I ate. He'll be right back. Anyway, so this guy is a Jain. If you'll remember, or if you are familiar with Jainism, he was a big patron of Jainism. And what will we have for subcontinental breakfast in his territory? Not a lot, because Jains are pretty strict about the diet. You can't really have anything that's going to kill anything. So pretty slim pickings at breakfast at Kharavela's subcontinental breakfast bodega or hotel, whatever you're doing. Now, of course, this is just joke. No bacon at all. No bacon, no sausage. Depending on water and honey, that's probably close. Water and honey, depending on how strict of a Jain you would want to be, maybe some leafy vegetables, no tubers, so no hash browns. Your hash browns are right out. Yeah. Jains are pretty strict about not causing harm. So there we go. All right, so there's the Kalinga. All right, now hashtag hash browns. spam, sausage and spam. Oh, goodness. Speaking of spam, I have seen rumor that a production company is going to try to make a feature film adaptation of Spamalot. which itself is a Broadway production of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So I don't know how I feel about that. Just a silly place. Yeah, so I don't know if I like that idea or not. Spamalot's okay. I don't have a problem with Spamalot, but I don't know if I want to watch a feature film version of Spamalot. I might want to just go watch the Broadway show or the theater production of Spamalot. I don't know how I feel about it. You actually had tickets to see Spamalot when it came to New Orleans. Yeah, and see, that's the thing, Tuna. Like, there are not always one-to-one translations of stage shows to feature films. Into the Woods was not so great of a movie. Sweeney Todd was okay, but there were uncomfortable parts of it. I think the show that probably did it the best was Les Mis. And I know that Russell Crowe got a lot of crap for his singing voice, but I really liked the movie version of Les Miserables. I thought it was really well done. And I think a lot of it had to do with the way that they filmed the movie. The directors brought live musicians onto the set to play live accompaniment to the actors. So while they were singing, if they wanted to like slow down the words for inflection, or if they wanted to pause, the live musician was skilled enough to kind of keep up with them, so that instead of just playing the song in a normal way that it would have been done. So normally when they film musicals, you get on stage and they play the stuff over the loudspeaker and you lip sync it. And then you go back into a booth later and you sing along with the music, and then they just match the film up with the audio. But when they were filming Les Miserables, the people that, like, the stuff that you're hearing with them singing is actually them singing on set. And they did it in a much more sort of organic way, and I thought that really worked very nicely. It ended up being on the day of your master's graduation. Crud. Crow was opposite Hugh Jackman, who was a legit music theater star. Fair enough. From Broadway to film can work. Hollywood to Broadway to film will never be okay. It would be like translating a book to Japanese, then translating the Japanese first to English. Yeah, that's kind of the way that it works. Or doesn't work. So anyway, Spamalot the movie might be coming our way sooner rather than later, and I'll probably watch it. I don't know if I'll like it. I'll give it as much of a fair shake as I can try. I really want to watch Les Miserables again. It's been a long time since I watched that. I think it might be time. Man, I love that music. I had Master of the House stuck in my head a couple of weeks ago. And now I do again, so yay. Okay. Let's talk about southern India. This region right down here. Now, here's the thing. Even when we were talking about the Maurya, we didn't really cover the southern part of India very much, because this region did not become part of the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryans did not conquer southern India. Especially this region right here. And if we look at the geography, you can tell that that highland region ends right here, and then you have this really nice coastal plain area that runs down the west, and then here in the center and the south and the east. Maurya, I'm saying Maurya, M-A-U-R-Y-A. Maurya or Mauryan Empire. They were the ones in charge of this area after the invasion of Alexander the Great until about 185 BC. It's a mine. Maurya means black pit in Elven. Not Middle Earth. Got it right. And dwarves don't really like calling it Maurya, by the way. They prefer Khazad-dûm, which is the name of it. Or the Dwerodelf. But now I'm off on a historical tangent in Middle Earth. So, Tulsa Doom? No, that's Conan. What is the riddle of steel? I don't know. I don't know. Does it involve me getting killed and lamentations of women and stuff like that? No, I enjoyed the tangents, and Vern, Master of Tangents, has me on his living room and is away from the keyboard. So someone has to pick up the tangent slack here. I appreciate I appreciate the effort. Anyway, there are a or there is a specific group of people, ethnically speaking, that lived down in the southern part of India around this period of time, and they are called the Tamils. And who are crud? I forgot. I had a picture that I didn't share with you, so let's pause real quick and let's go back to Caravela, because I forgot to share this thing with you. And I just realized that that did not come up very well at all. So the reason we know so much about Caravela is because of this giant inscription that's on a big wall in a cave at a place called Hathigumpa. And this is the Hathigumpa inscription. And we know that this is Jain territory because we see here the swastika, which is, at this point, again, absolutely nothing to do with Nazis. This is a Jain symbol. If you're interested in understanding more about that, you can check out our stream or the VOD on Jainism. But the Hathigumpa inscription here is one of the largest inscriptions, both in size and in length, from the Kalinga world. Really important. We get a lot of good information about it, including places that he conquered and places that he went. So this is a really important historical document. And the outside of it is actually carved into the side of this hill. So it's a really neat looking temple thing. Since it was in a cave, no, it was not built by Tony Stark. Okay, so let's talk about these Tamil people again that I mentioned and then didn't get back to. So who are the Tamils? Well, they live in a region down here in the south. And there are three big groups, and we'll sort of go through these a little bit one at a time in just a second. We have the Cholas, we have the Pandyas, and Pandyas, and the Cheras. When you can't see my cursor because I'm not clicking. So Cholas, Pandyas, and Cheras. And all of these are Tamils, and the story goes is that they're sort of based around this sort of myth that there were these three big brothers, and they all sort of had their own little kingdoms. They're all ethnically Tamil. They're going to have slightly different territories and very, very slightly different sort of ways of doing their life. A little bit of different culture, not too terribly much though. Lesson of history. If you want to be remembered throughout history, get really good at graffiti. It's true. Preferably in the form of chiseling stone. Tuna, this is accurate. There's sort of a joke that runs around historian circles that the way to get to be called the Great, like Alexander the Great or Ramses the Great or whomever the Great, is to either kill a lot of people or build a lot of stuff. But some of my friends in the history world and I have added a third way to be remembered as the Great. So you kill a lot of people, you build a lot of stuff, or you put your name on everything. You put your name on everything. And this is pretty common in the ancient world. You see people that, and this happens everywhere. Something will start under one king or one ruler, and they'll spend years building it. And then they'll die, and the next guy comes along and goes, I finished it, look at what I've built, and puts his name on it. Like Constantine. If you go to Rome, you can see the Arch of Constantine. It sits right beside the Colosseum. And everybody's like, oh man, check out the Arch of Constantine. Dude didn't build that. Dude scavenged that from other people and stole half the artwork and just had it assembled and then put his name on it. Draw a lot of those things. Yeah, that can get you there. Kilroy must have been at the head of the Axis powers in the Second European War. Yeah, I guess. but putting your name on the wall of a brothel and building a temple and then putting your name on the doorpost is a little bit different. Slightly different. Anyway, so what's up with these Tamil people? So, a few things about the Tamils. First off, they are the ancestors of the native people from the southern region of India. They also lived over on the island of Sri Lanka, which is this guy right here. Boom. And they were not incorporated into the Maurya Empire. And this is partially because of the distance they were from the capitals, cities, and the difficulty it was in moving troops that far south, the geographic boundaries between these areas. Will future historians be able to tell the difference between a brothel and a temple? I have answers to that, but it would sound really, really, really offensive to a lot of modern churches. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And we might talk about that in the group chat when I'm not on here. Anyway, so we see from texts that come from the Maurya Empire that they knew the Kalinga were down there. Not the Kalinga, the Tamils were down there. Some of the Tamil leaders are mentioned in treaties with Ashoka, with other rulers of the Maurya. So we know that they're down there, but they were not incorporated. You want to be offensive. Daria, I try not to be so offensive. Matters how many statues there are. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go there. It would be really... It would be mean, and I probably don't even mean it. Anyway, so these people have their own languages, their own dialects of the same Tamil language. They have their own culture. Now, initially, they're going to practice even their own religion. So their own native religion is very shamanistic, has a lot to do with worship of the earth and sacred sites and animals. But Hinduism is going to be pretty common, but it's a certain kind of blend of Hinduism. It's a sort of very native take on Hinduism that incorporates a lot of the Tamil flavor into Hinduism. So, and this is true even today. This region still has a lot of very independent, culturally native ideas that they hold on to, which still causes them trouble even today. There were a lot of violence-based attacks against the Tamils, especially through the 1900s, especially the late 1900s, like 1970s. There was a big war in Sri Lanka, civil war in Sri Lanka between the leaders of the government and the Tamil native people there, where atrocities were committed on both sides. War crimes, almost certainly. People should have probably gone to jail and been held accountable for that, but I don't think it ever really happened. But the Tamil people today are still very uniquely independent, even amongst all of the other people of India today as well. So they have Hinduism, but it's got this sort of Tamil flavoring to it. But during this particular period, which we refer to in history as the Sangam period, which is about 300 BC to about 300 AD, this region of Tamil area is going to start seeing a lot more outside influence. You're going to start seeing Buddhism and Jainism show back up. In fact, one of the earliest references that we have to an actual king of one of these Tamil kingdoms is a king of the Pandya. It's a Jain inscription. So Tamil is sweet, salty, umami. Tamil they get a little bit of all of that stuff. They have a very unique blend of food. There are a lot of native vegetarians. So in our subcontinental breakfast, you're going to get some meat options. You're going to see some beef options. But there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody in the Tamil kingdoms for our breakfast. If you want to be strict vegan, you can do that. If you want to be very, very strict Jain, you can do that. If you want to have a big heaping pile of bacon and sausage, you can do that too. So lots of unique blends of cultures in the Tamil kingdoms. And you start seeing these people show up in references from the outside world. You start seeing them show up in both Greek and Roman texts. You can see evidence of trade. There are Roman coins that have been found in this area. And it's a little bit towards the end of our phase, but you see coins of Augustus that have been excavated in India. You start seeing a lot of Tamil goods. They have a very specific type of pottery. And I'm realizing now that I should have found a picture of their red pottery to show you, and I just totally boneheaded that out. I apologize. But you start seeing their stuff show up all over the sort of old world. And so the Tamil are moving up during this period. And again, this is true of sort of the entire subcontinent of India. During this period of time, there's going to be a general rise in artistic skill, a general rise in literacy rates, and connections and connectivity with the outside world. That's a general theme across the entire subcontinent during this period. So let's talk a little bit about the individual kingdoms in order. So Pandya is the largest. They are in the southern part. Well, that's the wrong button. I need to show you the image again. Boom, there we go. So they are in this southern part here. This region today, by the way, is called Tamil Nadu, which is sort of this. There are two states in modern India. Tamil Nadu is sort of this area over here, and then there's one over here. But the Pandya are this chunk right here. Their capital city is this city right here, which is today called Korkai. Back in the ancient world, that was a city called Kavada. And you see this city right here called Madurai, and you can't actually see that very well. I should probably zoom in a little bit. So this city right here, Madurai, is actually the sort of what you might call like the cultural center of the entire Tamil world. It would have been their largest city. It would have had the most number of temples, the widest variety of Tamil stuff. It was a ritual center, had a lot of religious importance. So if you wanted to really experience what it was like to be in a Tamil state, go to Madurai during this period. And the Pandya who controlled that, it kind of gives them the sort of driver's seat. And in fact, they're going to kind of beat up the Cheras here in a bit, but alas. Okay, so there's the Pandya. Next group is the Chola, and this has nothing to do with Cholo, so nothing to do with the sort of modern slang term for Latino people. So Cholas, you can see here that they're in this river basin right here along the eastern coastline. The city right here, Urayur, was their capital. And during this period of time, they're not going to be the most powerful, but if we fast forward to about the 800s or 900s AD, which I know is like saying, hey, let's fast forward 1,000 years. The Chola are actually going to end up being the most powerful of all of the Tamil kingdoms, but that's way, way down the line. Um, so they're pretty powerful and pretty neat. All right, so there's the Chola, and the last group are the Cheras, who are over on the western coast over here, which we call the Malabar coast if you're familiar with British trade slang. Their city right here, Vanchi, is their capital. And for a while, they're going to have a whole bunch of trade. They're going to sort of be the extensive trade network of people, especially the ones that are getting stuff over into like the Greek and the Roman worlds. Some of the documents that we have talk about people from the Greek and the Roman world going to this region and sort of traveling around and checking it out. But that's going to kind of put a target on their back a little bit, and it won't be too terribly long, especially by the time we get to the very low numbers of the BC. The Pandya kind of move into that area and take them over. So if we... Man, I don't know if I'm losing my voice or if I've just been talking so much and I'm not used to it anymore because, well, I'm back to teaching and I took 3 weeks off of it. So there we go. Okay, so this is a picture of India as a map roughly at the end of our period of time. And we see, again, the Yuezhi, who we'll talk about again later on. We see the Indo-Parthians. This would have been under the first ruler of Gondophares, who we talked about last time. You see the Indo-Scythians, or the Western satrapies, which we talked about a little bit. You see the Kanvas over here, the kind of successor states to the Shunga. This does not have the Kalinga, though it should, right in this pocket area right here. We have the Satavahana, we have the Pandyan and the Cholas, and the Tamils down here on Sri Lanka. We didn't particularly talk about them, but they're called the Tamabarini. Tamaparni. So that's where we stand, roughly at 1 BC or so. I lost my voice. I've been talking a lot this week. This is the first full week of class. Well, no, it isn't. It's the second full week of class. But I had stream on Tuesday. I had classes all day yesterday, stream today, and I'll have classes tomorrow. So this almost always happens at the beginning of a term where I just end up having to talk a lot. I'll be fine. I'll get over it, and we'll all be good. Good. All right. So that is Classical Kingdom India. Pretty cool stuff and great artwork. I really enjoy the level of skill that they put on a lot of this stuff. We still have 2,000 years of Indian history to get through. Get some tea and let's keep this rolling. Yeah, we can just get it done tonight. Just crack your fingers and let's go. I can give you a really rough rundown. The Tamils stay in charge of their stuff down there for quite some time. Around the 200s, the Satavahana are still going to be around, but they're going to give out to a really big invasion of a group of people called the Kushans. The Kushans are going to be in control for about 150 to 200 years or so, and they control most of northern and central India, big Kushan Empire. The retaliation, and they're sort of outsiders. They come from outside of India and take over. The retaliation against that is led by a group of people called the Guptas, especially a guy named Chandragupta, who are going to set up a really big sort of pan-Indian empire in the 300s AD. They control that for quite some time. They start losing power around the end of the 500s, and India sort of splinters a little bit. It's not really until we get to the 800s AD or so that you see an invasion of Muslim people from the outside, first in the form of a group of people called the Mamluks, but then a big group called the not the Gurids, the Ghaznavids, who are going to come in and actually set up governments of Muslim people in India for the first time ever. The Ghaznavids get taken out by a group called the Gurids, who control most of northern India. At that point, central and southern India are reverting back to independent rule. That's not going to last too terribly long, because the Muslim Mamluk people are going to end up taking back over, who were originally slaves. They end up taking back over the territory and founding something called the Sultanate of Delhi, which runs for several hundred years until about the 14 or so hundreds, depending on where you want to claim that it ends. There's a lot of internal fighting during the Sultanate of Delhi. It's one of the richest countries in the world for quite some time. They end up taking over most everything except for that very, very southern point of India that are still held by the Tamils. The Tamil kings don't like the Sultanate very much at all. The Sultanate is going to start falling apart, especially after they get invaded by a group of people called the Timurids, under a guy named Tamerlane, who's actually a Mongol from Uzbekistan. That sort of sets the Sultanate of Delhi in disorder, and they kind of collapse for the next 120 or so years, only to be replaced by a group of people called the Mughals. Not Mughal like Final Fantasy Mughal. Mughal is Mughal Empire. And they are the richest country on the face of the earth for a couple hundred years or so, from about the late 1500s until about the early 1700s. During that period of time, especially the 15, 16, 1700s, you start seeing a lot of external European pressure inside of India, especially along the eastern and western coastline. The Mughals are going to end up getting turned against themselves and fall from the inside out to the French, but especially to the British, who control India from the early 1800s all the way through until the post-World War II period of time, when India becomes independent, and they break the India territory into three different countries. Well, actually two different countries, depending on whether or not you want to say East Pakistan and West Pakistan, or two countries or one country. And now they're India. So there's the next 2,000 years of India for you, bud. Mic drop. I don't actually want to drop my microphone. It's very nice, and I quite like it. So, and when did they get to cross the Pacific to become Native Americans? That's because Columbus was a dum-dum and didn't know where he was. So, I like doing that stuff, by the way. One of the things that I like to do for fun, and I know this is going to show how absolutely horribly nerdy that I am, I like to think of a city, and I'll say something like, let's pick Vienna. And I'll try to do the history of that entire city in sort of big strokes like that. Like, Vienna was founded by these people, and then took over by those people, and then controlled by those people, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus.
Many thanks, Moose. I know that wasn't as detailed of a 2,000-year sprint of history. Dum-dums aren't as good as Tootsie Roll Pops. Ooh, them's fighting words. A good cream soda dum-dum, or what are the white ones that have, it's like pineapple crud, I can't remember. Blow Pops. Okay, yeah, we can get behind Blow Pops. Oh, crud, what are they called? The dum-dums that are the thing is like an off white, and it's got pineapple, pina colada kind of thing. Those are my favorite. I love those. Those are so good. Anyway, we're not talking about cherry and grape, watermelon too, cream soda, and apple lollipops for you. So if you really want to smile, pop one in your mouth, a wild dum dums from Charms. We're not talking about that. We're talking about India, and I'm actually done with my section of India for the night. So if anybody has any other questions about that stuff, you're welcome to ask. If anybody wants to redeem points for anything, now 'tis the time, my friends. And I shall look for someone to go raid. Who shall we raid? Who have we not raided in a while? Oh, let's go raid Cryomera. We're going to go raid Cryomera. So, we... Oh, Luna. I'm sorry. You can watch the VOD, though. Rank 3 things. Blow Pops, Dum Dums, Tootsie Roll Pops. This is very easy for me. I like Dum Dums the best, and I know. I know it doesn't have bubblegum in it, but they have the widest variety of flavors. If I can only pick one sucker, with a Blow Pop, you're only going to get 3 options. No, 4 options. You've got the red one, which some people say is cherry and other people say is strawberry, but it just tastes like red. You've got the grape one, you've got the blue raspberry one, and you've got the green apple one. You have 4 options for the Blow Pop. And the same thing is true for the Tootsie Roll. You really only have 3 options there. You have the red one, which again just tastes like red. You have the chocolate one, and you might only have 3 options for Blow Pops. Don't they have a blue one too? No, I'm sorry, for Tootsie Roll Pops. Don't they have a blue one? Or is it just 2 options? Anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is that the variety of the Dum Dum is the power of the Dum Dum. It's got like 10 flavors. That's the spice of life, my friends. Sometimes you just want to eat a root beer Dum Dum and pretend that you like it because you thought that you did like it, and then you remembered that you don't like it. But you can have that option. Blue, orange. I have never in my life had a purple Tootsie Roll Pop. I have never seen a purple one, I don't think, in my life. You spent all of your points on History of Middle-earth. Well, okay, yeah, so there are 2 different versions of the red. So there's like the cherry one, and then there's like the strawberry one. I knew there was a blue one, and there's the orange one. Okay, yeah. So even so, there are only 5. But if I had to rank them, Dum Dum's got to win. I know that they don't have the treat in the middle, and I know they're not as large, but it's the variety, man. It's the variety. So Dum Dums, then... and the tough one is going to be whether or not I'd like a Tootsie Pop or a Blow Pop. I'm going to have to go with Tootsie Roll Pop. Because the gum that's in the Blow Pop is good for approximately 30 seconds. And then it just turns into chalk. But the Tootsie Roll is a Tootsie Roll all the way through. So Dum Dums, Tootsie Rolls, Blow Pops. You don't like every Dum Dum flavor? You don't have to. It's okay. Yeah, Tootsie Roll is better than the gum. I agree. Random Indian mythology fact. Oh, this is so fun. There's so many cool stories. Oh, I'll tell you the alien one. So if you like aliens... there is a story in the Rig Veda, and the ancient alien people are all over this story, and the gods are having this big war, and they had this big army over here and this big army over here, and the gods are sort of moving humans around like pawns. But there's this scene where one of the gods loads up his army on his sky chariot and flies his army to this strategic location and then unloads them, and they win the battle. And ancient aliens people are like, alien spaceship. So if you're interested and want to read that for yourself, Google Rig Veda alien and it'll pop up. I'll actually go. Let's see if I can find it. Descriptions of aliens. First one, Vedic scriptures. The Vimana. Yes, the flying chariots. So if you're interested in learning more, go look up Vimana. Random history fact. The opossum myth for Daria. Okay, we could tell the opossum myth again. So last Tuesday, or Tuesday this week, we did Native American mythology as a viewer request episode. And Kelly, if you're still here, Kelly Howlett, if you are still hiding in the bushes, have you decided on what you want your topic to be? Okay, so we were talking about different regional Native American mythologies, and I told a few different stories from a lot of different places, and even some people from the chat were bringing in really good stuff. But anyway, one of the stories that I told is a southeastern myth about how the possum got its pouch. And the story basically goes that the possum had its babies stolen. The possum had babies. This bat flew down and stole the babies and took them back up to the cave. And the opossum first went to the rabbit, who was supposed to be sort of tricksy and cunning, and said, "Would you go get my babies back?" So the rabbit goes up to the cave and cannot retrieve the babies. So then the opossum goes to the fox and says, "Will you go get my babies?" Because the fox is supposed to be kind of brave and cunning. And so the fox goes up to the cave and cannot return the babies. And so then the opossum goes to the turtle, who was supposed to be this wise and wizened figure in the mythology, and asks for the turtle to return the babies. And the turtle goes up and gets the babies back and brings the babies down to the mother opossum and says, "Now let me fix this for you." And so the turtle cuts open her belly and makes a little pocket in her belly and says, "No, look, you keep your babies in the little pocket there, and that way your babies won't get stolen from you anymore. And this way you can keep them very close to you." So that is how the opossum, which is a marsupial, got its pouch. So there you go. Cool little stories, little myths. Anybody else got anything? I like that stuff. Little stories and just little history nuggets is what I call them. Makes everything a little bit cooler, right? Martial arts random fact. Yeah, we can do this. So, one of the earliest known martial arts is a fighting style called pancration, which was invented by the Spartans. And it was designed, and this is going to sound kind of horrible, but the design and the goal of pancration is to literally disfigure your opponent. So it's got like all of these joint locks that are designed to dislocate joints, or these tension locks that are designed to like fracture your forearm and stuff, because the idea was if a Spartan had to resort to physical hand-to-hand combat, stuff had got real bad, because Spartans, they fought in formation, and if the formation had broken, they had broken out down to physical fighting. Your goal should be to break your opponent in such a way that they are off the battlefield as a tactical consideration, right? So if you have to fight them, you break them so bad that they can't get back up. So there is a random martial arts history fact for you. Pancration. It's pretty brutal. I know a couple of the moves. I know a leg lock that is designed to pull your hip out of socket. It's pretty nasty. If your leg gets yanked out of socket, you're not fighting anymore. That's horrible. Like, just even kind of thinking about it is just like, all right. Anybody else? I love this little back and forth kind of stuff, by the way. It makes me exercise my brain. Okay. Or we can go hang out with a raid. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. All right, so I'll push the button here. That's what ended Bo Jackson's career. Yeah, so you don't do lots of stuff after you get your leg yanked out of socket. He was tackled in a way that pulled... Ooh. Yeah, I remember that, and I tried to forget that kind of stuff. All right, ladies and gents, thank you all so very much for hanging out. I really appreciate all of the comments and the back and the forths and the talk and the chatter. You all are great. I really do appreciate you. I'm a member of one of the best communities on Twitch. You guys rock. So we're going to go raid Cryomera, who is an amazing artist, has been a very big supporter of my channel. Really cool person, does amazing artwork. So our battle cry is adventure with lots of exclamation marks. And if you have them, we will throw as many of our adventure hats as we can. And other than that, our next definite stream is going to be next Thursday. I might do some stuff over the weekend with the Gundam stuff. I don't know. I've got a lot of sociology work that I need to work on, so I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. Maybe, I hope so, but maybe. Otherwise, I'll see you all definitely next Thursday. Have a good one, and have a good weekend.